And now, live, the Domestic Estate Manager Studios in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. It's the nation's #1 podcast series in the private service industry. It's time for DEMA Live. Now, here are your hosts, Matt and Mike.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of DEMA Live. I am your host, Matthew Hack, and today we will continue our road to the 2013 DEMA Convention podcast series. I'm joined today by Nancy Laine. Miss Laine is a professional LinkedIn trainer. She is also the president of Project Transition USA, a nonprofit organization dedicated to help train transitioning military veterans how to fully utilize LinkedIn to find meaningful and rewarding new jobs in the civilian world. Good morning, Nancy, and welcome to DEMA Live. How are you today?
I'm great, Matt. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm really excited going into the 2013 convention. We have been interviewing a lot of these speakers, and I'm really excited to hear a little bit about what you're going to be presenting on at the convention and also allowing our members to learn a little bit more about you.
Oh, I am so excited about being there. You know, Orlando's just a hop, skip, and a jump for me because I'm in Tampa Bay, and so I'm very much looking forward to this.
With that being said, can you give us a little bit of background about how you got started in this particular industry?
Absolutely. You know, my background was in media. I graduated with a degree in video production, and I ended up working for CBS when I was quite a bit younger, and I loved that. But then I realized that TV was actually kind of fading out, that the internet was really where it was at, and so I started getting more and more interested in that. And a few years ago, back in 2006, I was a social networking editor for an online networking publication. And one of our fellow writers kept insisting that all of us create profiles on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn was brand new at that time. It had only been around for 3 years, and I just thought it was really boring, frankly. And I just created a profile just to satisfy him because he kept insisting that we do this. And somebody found me there and hired me, and I was blown away by that.
and that was the beginning of many endeavors that you've started, correct?
It was the only reason I thought twice about it. 2 years went by. Like most people, I didn't do a thing with my profile. It just sat there. And somebody still found me from it in 2008 and hired me, and is still hiring me to this day as a consultant. So I just got fascinated with it and started teaching myself more about it.
Well, you and I met at the Behind Every Leader conference in Los Angeles, and in talking with you, I think I was able to explain some of the difficulties that are currently going on in LinkedIn, especially concerning the private service professional, whether it be finding the right profile to define who they are, what they do. And I think that what you have to offer to a private service professional is extremely beneficial to them, not only if they're currently employed, but also if they're in the process of making a career transition. So with that being said, can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be speaking on? I know that the presentation you're going to be giving is called LinkedIn, Why It's Becoming a Must in the Private Service Industry. Can you explain a little bit about some of the pieces that we'll be addressing at the convention?
Absolutely, Matt. I just want to start out by commenting on something you just said about some of us are transitioning and some of us don't know that we're always transitioning. And that's really the main point, is if we could predict the future and we knew what was going to be happening next, things might be a lot easier, right? But you have to pretend like it could happen to you tomorrow, even if you're not expecting it. And you absolutely, it's all in who we know, isn't it?
It is, and I think that that's where LinkedIn can be such an important piece of the tool. But one of the main things is you have to work LinkedIn. It's not something where you just go ahead and you accept invitations. You have to take certain precautions in order to protect yourself, the profile, and the people that you're linked with.
You bet. You know, and especially in the private service industry, the privacy factor is so important, and I really understand that. And by the way, I work with training veterans, transitioning military to use LinkedIn, and the people that attend my workshops are the people that run Central Command. So I really understand this thing about privacy. It's very important to them, too. And so one of the things we'll be covering in my talk is just how much you can control. There's private settings inside your profile that most people don't even know exist, and you can show what you want to show and nothing more.
And I think that that's extremely important piece that everyone should be implementing on their LinkedIn profile. One of the big pieces that we're going to be discussing throughout the convention is boundaries and setting limitations on how you interact with not only the principal, but those that you deal with on a daily basis, whether it's vendors, agencies, or whoever else you might come in contact with. So I think that being able to set those same boundaries within a LinkedIn profile are extremely huge.
Absolutely. And another thing we'll be talking about is a question I get asked all the time, Matt. It's like, which invitations should I accept? I have these people invite me to connect that I don't know. Is it safe? And that we're definitely going to be talking a lot about that. That's a very important thing to know. And I can help people keep from making the mistakes that other people make. And you don't have to learn the hard way by making the mistakes first, and that's how you learn. It doesn't have to be that way. It took me so many years to learn how to do this right. And so I can just basically save them the trouble and help them do it right from the very beginning.
Great. So what are some of the pieces that you feel are the most important when we're dealing with LinkedIn? I know that when I first got started with LinkedIn, I dealt with someone that was a LinkedIn specialist. And at the time, one of the things that they told me was before you accept an invitation, or once you do accept an invitation, make sure you take a look at that person's profile and see if their connections are open for you to be able to reach out to. Is that something that you recommend for someone who's accepting a profile of a new person?
Sure. I always look at their profile because, well, and here's something that's really challenging this whole thing too. So few people do a good job of filling out their profile that you have to kind of remember that when you're looking at somebody's profile. They may very well be somebody that would be a very good alliance for you, and they just may not know enough about how to use LinkedIn to even make it evident. So you have to keep this in mind too, Matt. There's all kinds of reasons for accepting invitations from people. Not just whether or not they have their connections open to you, which is a whole other interesting subject in itself. But since we can't know who we'll need to know tomorrow, we need to have quite a broad range of connections. We need to know people, especially in this field. We need to have connections in every industry, every field, because let's face it, we're expected to be the resource person. We're expected to be highly connected, and we're expected to know who to call in a flash if some kind of crisis evolves. We're supposed to know how to put the fires out, right? And we can't know all that ourselves. We've got to have a whole big professional network at our disposal. Don't you agree?
I do agree, and I think that that's one of the big pieces that DEMA works really hard at to try and provide for all of our members is that group of valued vendors and also agencies that they know when they need help, these are going to be the trusted resources. And the way that we do that is really through phone communication. So what's your recommendation once a person has been accepted to LinkedIn? What are like a couple of the pieces that you recommend to do with a new person that you just linked in with?
Well, you want to reach back to them and thank them for inviting you to connect. There's a certain etiquette to follow on LinkedIn, especially when you're dealing with influential people. As we all know, there's a very special etiquette to follow. You need to highly respect their invitation to connect, and you have to assume that there is something you can do to help them. That's really where I have everybody start. Find a way to help them. Always help first before you ever ask for somebody to help you. Has that worked for you, Matt?
It's worked extremely well. I've been utilizing that mantra for probably about 10 years, whether it was in the prior business that I was a general manager at, or even now. We've built DEMA and all of our connections 100% through referrals. We don't do any advertising.
Wow.
And you have to be able to find the needs of the person that you want to help you before you can ever ask them for help.
Absolutely. And so, one of the key concepts that we'll be covering in my talk is your resume is your resume. A LinkedIn profile is very different, and a lot of people don't realize that. You look at most people's profiles, and they're just boring, it's just like a resume online, and that's not what this is for. your resume is for just, bullet pointing all the things you've done and your skills and all that. LinkedIn has part of that as what you fill out on your profile, but the other 50% that most people miss completely is conveying their passions, conveying their personality. Because, for instance, let's say a potential employer, the owner of an estate or whatever, looks at your resume and they're like, could work. But then what's going through their mind is like, but will they fit in? That's the biggest, don't you agree? Isn't that where so many of the issues arise?
Well, I think that's something that is starting to really change in the industry. For a long time, it was look at a person's experience level and make a decision based upon that. But what we're starting to see change in the industry in talking with agencies and also in dealing with some of the principals is they're more concerned about a personality conflict than they are the actual tools that person brings to the job. A lot of the skill sets are all going to be trainable skill sets, which means that you can learn whether through education or through communication with others, but you can't learn a personality. And so yeah, I completely agree. Personalities are a huge piece of what we do in this industry.
Absolutely. Just for instance, I've been training private service professionals how to use LinkedIn for some time now, and just yesterday I was speaking with one of them, and they are working in a household that is very influential, as most of us are. And the thing is it may not be the best fit. She, for instance, has such a passion for philanthropy, and the owners of the estate that she's working with just really aren't in that culture. And so it's not the best fit, even though she's very qualified, and they're very happy with her. But, her heart is in finding a position with people that are givers and just really are passionate about giving back to the world, because that's how she is. And there's a lot of estate owners out there that would love to have her in their household, right? Because she's got a great personality, too, and a fantastic resume.
Absolutely. Are there any other pieces that you'll be covering during the convention, or are you going to be giving any type of takeaways or handouts with your presentation?
Well, thanks for asking that, because when I speak to an audience, I create a PowerPoint just for them. And at the end, I always make it available to them. I only have one catch. They must invite me to connect on LinkedIn because I want to know them. And I will send my PowerPoint to them so they can sit at home and use what they've learned side by side with their profile and just pause it and keep going back and making changes, and then work with me personally if they'd like. That's always an option too, because I understand some people are brand new at this and they just really don't have the time to teach themselves. They need somebody that can just help them do it quick.
Absolutely.
So we're busy. I understand that. And it took me years to learn what I know now. So, for instance, one of the things I always cover is, for instance, why they should why not take the time, any time at all? Why they absolutely must do this. And it's because LinkedIn is the most influential piece in cyberspace today. It is the most influential site for networking with the C-level professionals that we all need to know. That's where they hang out. They don't take a lot of the other social networks seriously at all, but frankly, the wealthiest, most influential, most educated people in the world are on LinkedIn, including all of the Fortune 500 companies. And so that's who we need to know, right?
It is. And with that being said, I think that's a good point to kind of move over into the next group of questions, which is basically, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to at this year's convention as far as attendance-wise?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing right now to prepare, and this is what I would really encourage everybody else that's listening to do also. I am starting to reach out and invite the other speakers to connect. I'm starting to reach out inviting DEMA members to connect. I want us to know each other before we get there. Now, what about that idea?
I think that's a great idea, and I think that it's going to be a huge piece in the overall push towards attendance at this year's convention. And I think that missing this year's convention is really going to be something that is really not acceptable in the community, because the number of people and presenters and the other private service professionals that these very private individuals are going to be able to meet is going to be priceless.
Absolutely. So if we know, if a lot of us know each other before we get there, then we'll really be able to fly, because it's all about networking and helping each other, right? And so we'll know what we can do to help each other.
So Nancy, with that being said, then how do you go about doing something like that on LinkedIn? Do you type in a search for under the word Domestic Estate Managers Association, or what do you recommend?
Well, here's something that everybody can do that would just take literally 2 seconds. Just go, add the section called Organizations to your profile, or somewhere on your profile, put DEMA, and then spell it out, Domestic Estate Managers Association. If you have those words on your profile, and make it clear in your interests that, that's another place you can add that, where it'll show up really high in your interests in the additional information section down by your contact me information. Then we'll be able to find each other by just searching for DEMA. That's one thing you can do just so easily. And don't we all want to know each other? That's why we're joining the association, right?
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. So basically, your recommendation prior to the convention is go into your LinkedIn update or profile, update that profile, and add the word DEMA, and then in parentheses write Domestic Estate Managers Association under both organizations and interests.
Yes, and you can put it in several different sections, actually. You can put it in your summary section. You can make it clear that you're a member, because that is credibility in itself. I mean, you're obviously branding yourself as somebody that cares enough to stay on top of the trends and the latest education and be an industry leader.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So with that being said, if someone wants to reach out to you before the convention, Nancy, what are some of the ways that people can get in contact with you?
Well, email is probably the best. NancyLaine@gmail.com is my email address. Just spell Laine, Laine. And that's one thing. I'm going to just give you my phone number right now, because I'm fine with people calling me. It's area code 727-415-3878. So please feel free to reach out to me either way. And also on LinkedIn, just type my name, Nancy Laine. I'm the only Nancy Laine in Tampa Bay, so you should be able to find me pretty easily. And please invite me to connect. I would love that.
Outstanding. Well, listen, I really appreciate having you on the show today, and I look forward to seeing you at the convention. And are there any final thoughts that you'd like to add before we end the podcast here?
One special thing that I haven't mentioned that I really do want to mention, that is thank you for your service. I know you're a former Marine yourself, and I was very happy to learn that when I first met you in L.A. I was happy to have you add all that to your profile, because I truly believe that people want to know that about you. It says a lot about what you're about, and I really, like I said, I really believe in supporting our transitioning military, and thank you for setting such a great example of somebody who came out of the Marines, the military, and ended up being an entrepreneur. You found a way to serve. And I love your logo, just serving those who serve. Correct me, is it just a little bit different than that?
It's serving those that serve others.
I love that. That says it all. And thank you so much for how much you're serving us, Matt.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome, and the pleasure was all mine, and has been all mine today. So I appreciate you taking the time, and look forward to seeing you at the convention here in September.
Thank you, Matt. We'll see you all there.
Thanks to my guest, Ms. Nancy Laine, and as always, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen to another DEMA Live podcast. If you are interested in more information on how you can become part of this year's convention in September, visit the convention website at www.demaconvention.com. Once again, that's www.demaconvention.com. Stay tuned for more great podcasts from presenters from this year's DEMA Convention. Until next time, I've been your host, Matthew Hack. And remember, as Thomas Edison said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways it won't work.